Our awake faces, at least. So we will get right into our meeting. First, we will hear our inspiration by David, and then Thomas will lead us in the pledge. David, are you ready for your morning inspiration?
Good morning, Madam President. You can hear me, right? Good. This morning's inspiration comes from my recent activities and adventures. I was very fortunate earlier in the week, which reminds me that we take plenty of time to petition higher powers for some help. But do we ever take a moment to thank them? So please join me in a moment of silence. And I want you to think about things that you're thankful for. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Dave. Very inspirational. I think moments of silence are something that we forget about. We're supposed to listen more than we speak as people on Toastmasters. And some
this club.
You and I lead the pack, perhaps, on that. Some clubs even have moments of silence after the speakers so that we can gather our thoughts and give them evaluations on the side. I think that's something worth considering in the future. Thomas is prepared, ready to lead our pledge. Thomas.
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you, Thomas. And Thomas is our Toastmaster today. Before we launch into that, we have a business matter to take care of. We have dues are rising for international by $15 starting August 1st. We put out a plea, the treasurer and the officer team, to return your dues by July 28th. That's tomorrow, if possible, so we could sneak in and get that lower price. Now, as of last night's officer meeting, I believe we had 5 members who have paid their dues so far out of nearly 40 or so, maybe 35 or so. That's not great numbers. And some of us were the officers, but some of us weren't. And so we decided to bring forward an opportunity for the members to vote. The dues we raised internally by the same amount per 6 months, 15 years, $15, almost 2 years ago, when our expenses were increasing with technology and venue rentals. Now, because of not being charged by the venues, the Bewley Building or the Y, even though we were anticipating to pay them, and because of donation and many volunteer hours from several of our members, including Mr. Toastmaster today, and because of the technology shared by Len and Larry, our expenses were lower, and our coffers now have $2,800. We're sitting stronger than probably ever, going into our 40th anniversary year. So we have some expenses we might see in the spring, but we really didn't spend a lot of money on our 35th or 30th or 25th anniversary parties. So we will pull together a committee for that. That's separate. Right now, what we're talking about is the dues raised in 5 days. I don't see our members coming together, getting their dues paid so that we can get that lesser price, especially if we couldn't respond to get the schedules situated. And it took several weeks for that. I don't see dues rolling in faster, unfortunately. So the thought is that we could absorb the cost and bring our internal dues back by $15, so they're back to the $6 that they have been for years and years for 6 months. That would stabilize everything to be the same at $66 due for the September term, which you could still pay sooner because the invoice is out and the PayPal is out. So the executive team thought we could vote now, and I wonder if we could have a motion from the floor to offset the $15 rise by TI to bring it back down ours to drop our $15 increase we had.
I'd like to make a motion to drop our dues that we collect $15 to absorb the TI increase of dues.
Okay, do we have a second from the floor? And then we'll lead in discussion if there is any.
I
I'll
second the
second.
motion.
There was about 5. Mike Farrell, I heard. Mike Licata, sorry, that was a blur. Mike Licata, I heard. Tracy Farrell, I saw first. So I think both got the second on that. And several more voices. Any discussion, questions about it that we need to review or go over? Okay, then I think that, Mom, looks, you unmute yourself so you can, that's okay. Mom is the treasurer for a reminder for anybody. Beth.
I was remiss because there are a few of you that prepaid, and I sent out invoices to everyone instead of making sure that I didn't send them out to the prepaid people. So if you are prepaid, you obviously don't owe the dues for this time.
Prepaid means you paid for the year in advance. Some of our members pay for 12 months versus 6 months at any given time. The options are all available on your PayPal link too on the side. Under our agenda, there is a PayPal link that you can just use, and it includes the TI Toastmaster International dues that are now going up to $45 next week, and going up from 45 to 60. Plus
Okay.
our $6 months. So that's right automatic, and it gives options for 6 months or 12 months on there. So if anybody hasn't paid, you can also hop onto PayPal. You can use a credit card or PayPal account for that. And now I see David Jones from the floor.
If you have
Sorry,
forgotten, the members who prepaid are Kristen Badger-Bach, myself, Nancy Ferry, Lester Robinson, Michael Reinbold, Gerald Stevens, and Elaine Moon.
Okay, which still puts on.
I just paid this week.
Oh, great. Which we're still about half renewed so far. So I don't know who's going to jump on that over the weekend. Sorry, Beth, are you done?
I'm done.
David next, and maybe Phil. I can't tell. David, go ahead.
Just for clarification, if we pay before the end of the month, is it going to be 45 or is it going to be 60? Because we're going to drop the 15 dues now, or we're going to drop the 15 dues after?
The point we made at the officer meeting was now, just because even if you paid, thank you for paying in advance early. We were trying to get everybody on board. We had a few weeks to do that, and it just isn't rolling in as fast as we thought. It's more than 5 because of the other 10 or so. So it's about 15 that have paid, but that our membership is over 30, so we're still under half that's renewed. And these are members, like most of our members are going to renew. Right now, we don't have anybody that I'm aware of who's on the fence. Some of the folks who don't come at all renew fastest, typically. So does that make sense? I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to explain. So it would start immediately, and great job, those of you who did. So maybe you're right, maybe we should give that back to we didn't think that through very well, did we? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like the $15, what David is asking, because I understand it. It took me a moment. I need more caffeine. That if you pay the extra 15, well, we would backdate it, right? Could the motion be? Someone else has to solve this. I'm sorry, I'm your president, folks, but none of you said
Okay.
to do it. None of you wanted to do it.
So you can't go on and pay less, right? And then the 60, you have to pay the 60 now, correct? And then get reimbursed to get back to 45. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think so.
What I'm saying, what David was asking, I think, and what makes sense is if you paid before the $15 increase, you should not have to pay that $15 increase. And if we're making it for this coming quarter, we were going to punt it to next spring as an officer team and do this next spring because we thought, folks, nobody pays directly to TI. So we have the funds now. So that makes sense. I think to make it fair, we should amend. Like if you paid on our website, that money didn't go to TI yet. It's in our bank account until we pay TI. So
Wasn't the whole point to avoid it's going up $15
right,
after August 1st?
correct.
But if we're not going to, if the club's absorbing that $15, everybody should still have to pay what those of us that paid before August 1st paid and just pay it. I mean, it doesn't go down 15, it just doesn't go up 15.
Right, I guess.
Right, correct.
So that anybody that paid in advance last week or 6 months ago, if we're dropping it for everybody else, you should get that $15 back. I mean, if anybody wants to, maybe reach out. Does that make sense?
But no, it doesn't, because I'd still have to pay it. I'd still be paying it. I just would have paid it in October instead of August.
But
It's the,
okay, yes.
it's the same amount. Yeah.
That makes sense. David has a,
So
actually-
we're not due anything other than the time we lost. We could have waited 2 months.
oh, right, yeah, thank you. Sorry. I
So
should
just
have-
don't send me a bill in 2 months. That's
Yeah,
all.
exactly, we will not. David Licata has his hand raised. Thank you, David.
For the sake of $15, just keep it for future headaches.
Well, I'd like,
Don't worry about paying back
I
$15,
think what
just
they
keep it.
I think what they clarified is that 15 would have gone to TI anyway, so like,
Well, whatever you can keep, just
oh
keep
yeah,
it
but it
in our,
was early, whatever. Thank you,
keep
everybody.
it in our treasury.
Thank you for your responsibility. Thank you for your donations. We'll keep the motion in the second as the same that it is. If you have any issues with it, just reach out, please. Reach out to me or mom or some officer. And okay. Any other questions? Thanks for the circling back, everybody. We appreciate the clarification. Okay, may I see either a show of hands or voice, all in favor of what was motioned?
Aye.
Okay, okay. That looked like most. Opposed? Any opposed? Any abstains? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you all for understanding, and understand if you abstain too, if that was just confusing. I didn't mean to make it a confusing thing. Okay, a couple other announcements. Like I mentioned, we'll have in April our 40th anniversary party, 40 years and going strong. Super exciting. If you want to be on the planning committee with Eric and I, please join us. We have some work to do. It'll be exciting. I was on the 25th and 30th and 35th committees, but we could do things differently. It doesn't have to be always the same. Okay, and then coming up at the end of August, like we've been saying for a while, it's the summer picnic at Margot's. I emailed it out. It's also on Facebook. And one more social activity just got added to the lineup next Friday. August 11th, Shakespeare in the Park. It's Romeo and Juliet. It's a lot of fun. And I looked back and found pictures. The first year we went was 2015 as a group, and it was also Romeo and Juliet 8 years ago. So cheers to social activities that we do. And with that toast, get your drinks ready. I will hand over the floor to Thomas Heldwein, our Toastmaster of the day. Thomas, the floor is yours. Finally.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our meeting. I don't see any guests, so welcome to my fellow Toastmasters. Thank you, Madam President, for the kind introduction. Today's meeting is toasts. So I'm going to start off with a toast, a silly little one that we used to use as children, and I still think it's one of my favorites. Over the lips and past the gums. Look out, Tommy. Here it comes. So what are some other normal toasts? Amazingly, the most popular one is cheers. Well, where did cheers come from? It comes from the French root cheer, which is a French word for facial expression. Whether the toast is solemn or joyful, you express that in the face. And then cheer eventually became cheers. Okay, so we're going to go through roles to start with. We're going to get our word master first because we always love to use the word of the day. So our word master, master grammarian, is Gerald Stevens. Gerald Stevens, can you explain your roles and give us our word for the day?
Before I do that, Mr. Toastmaster, I will do a toast. Since I think every role holder will probably do a toast, I would think. May your days be long and full of happiness. May you have many children and full health, and may you live in peace and freedom. That's from the movie The Quiet Man. Got to give credit where credit's due. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, the word of the day is rarefied. It means something that is understood or appreciated by only a small select group of people, maybe us. She has never been comfortable in a rarefied world of art dealers. This is an example of how it's used. So pre-use that in table topics and any other opportunities you have to speak. The additional roles I have, I will check off any ahs and filler words that I hear from all speakers. And I will do my best in regards to improper grammar, correction, and listening to the good things that you might say as well. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. Wordmaster. Could you put the definition in Word into the chat, please?
Sure.
Thank you. I always remember as Toastmaster, before you start going through all the other roles for the day, before you forget, always go back and introduce the general evaluator. So for today's meeting, our general evaluator is Nancy Ferry. Nancy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters. It's always good to be here on a Thursday morning. Can I be heard, actually?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't test my audio before I started speaking. Sorry. It's great to be here on Thursday mornings at 7 a.m. I'm an early morning person, so I'm always glad to get things done in the morning. My role today is to evaluate the general flow of the meeting and to evaluate the evaluators, and I'm looking forward to doing so. And my toast is to a great meeting today.
I was muted. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, so I gotta scroll all the way back up to the top. Oh, for some levity and humor today, our jester is Jackie Henny. And there she is.
Good morning. Hopefully I'm being heard. I'm having technical issues this morning. I love your theme, Thomas. It's excellent. So, of course, I decided to give a toast as well. And here we go. Some things are better left unsaid. And being a wee bit Irish, I generally realize that right after I've said them. Here.
Here's.
I think I'm gonna go through a lot of coffee during this this meeting.
Sips, little sips. Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Our timer today is going to be Katie Orr. Katie, can you go ahead and explain the timer's role? Go over the time for our different.
I sure can. I have the backgrounds ready to go, and I did now last time I did this, I did the table topics wrong. So I should clarify while our experienced members are here that I do this correctly. So we have table topics and speakers and evaluators who are timed. Evaluations, 2 to 3 minutes. Buffer of 30 seconds. And I thought it was 15 seconds. So I did that wrong too. But I'll do the yellow at the middle point there at 2.5. 5 to 7 for most of the speeches, and I did finally print out the agenda. Looks like 5 to 7. I'm not sure about everybody, so please, evaluators, verify times. And then for table topics, is it 1.5 to 2 minutes? Am I getting a thumbs up or a shake? Because I thought it was one. Like typical TI is 1 to 2 minutes, but we are overachievers.
We've had this debate the last few weeks. As
Yeah.
long as I've been in this club, it's been 1.5 to 2 minutes with a 15-second buffer. You know, we have never paid attention to the 1 to 2 minutes with TI. But I think we should be consistent whichever way we're going to go. I think we should stick to the 1.5 to 2 minutes because it's more challenging and we're AM Lockport. You can do it. How's that?
Heck, yes. That sounds like a plan. So that puts the yellow at 1:45. That's, I think, was my confusion last time I did this. And it's a 15-second buffer as opposed to the other two that are 30-second buffers. We're getting a lot of Quiet Man and Irish references this morning. Those are fantastic. I wasn't ready. I guess maybe later I'll give it a better toast. Let's say toast to doing it the AM Lockport way. Thank you very much for your clarification. Back to you, Thomas. Rise to the
The
challenge.
Lockport way. Excellent. I skipped over the quote master. Our quote master for today is Carol Ann Halstead. Carol Ann, tell us about your role, some quotes, maybe a quoted toast.
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. My quotes are, keep your face to the sun and you will never see the shadows. Helen Keller. To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. From Audrey Hepburn. Summer has a flavor like no other, always fresh and simmered in sunshine. That's Oprah Winfrey. And my toast is to summer, my favorite season. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol Ann. Our quiz master today is Mark Campos. Mark Campos, explain what you'll be doing today.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Good morning. To Mike Florio's point, I'm finding I really have to ration the coffee, tiny little sips, because otherwise we'll go through about a half dozen cups, and that might not be ideal. My job as Quizmaster is to test our listening skills. So pay attention, fellow Toastmasters. There will be a quiz at the conclusion of the meeting. And by the way, for a toast, I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm also going to beat David Licata to it. Salute.
Salud. Thank you, Mark. So there are many opportunities to toast, and as we are finding out, they can get out of control, as they did at some point in the early 19th century. And there was such uncontrolled drinking where someone would drink to the health of everyone in the room, and it became uncontrollable and extreme drunkenness would ensue. So it became a rarefied understanding that you would name a Toastmaster to control the toasts and make sure that they didn't get out of control and lead to drunkenness. That was the first use of the word Toastmaster. It later became an organization where not only could you control a meeting or gathering, but also be the public speaker and be able to give toasts. And now it's an organization worldwide as far as public speaking and leadership skills. So there's a great history to toasts and how it led to Toastmasters. And it definitely came from too many toasts. So this is the table topics section. I went ahead and wanted to take this as well. And I wanted to give this up as whether almost everyone has a role, as far as I can tell, like everyone does have a role. So we're going to go with whoever will volunteer for these. For a memorable toast, this is going to be the most generic question, so jump on it. The most generic toast that you remember. Oops, sorry. Go away. Okay. The most memorable toast you remember from your lifetime, could be any occasion. Anyone want to talk about the most memorable toast in their lifetime? Could be humorous, it could be anything. If not, I'm gonna just do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, kicks Trigger by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, you are... Oh, Beth. It landed on you, so I'm gonna call on you to give a table topics 1.5 to 2 minute speech using the word rarefied at some point in the speech about a memorable toast you have had in your lifetime. And with that, over to you, Beth.
Thank you, Thomas, for this opportunity. A memorable toast. I think as I was becoming an adult and going to friends' weddings and things, it was pretty standard that the best man would give a toast to the groom and to the bride. They were usually just very small toasts, not very much. It has become something different at weddings, and I like it. It has become something that the groom and now the maid or matron of honor has been added to the toast list, that they really personalize the toast to the couple that they are asking everyone to toast to. When I first heard a personalized toast, I was very impressed with that. I don't remember what year or who exactly, but I remember them thinking that they thought outside of the box and they decided to personalize the toast and really make it about the couple. In that day, it was a rarefied toast. It was something that people didn't hear, but I do appreciate that now, that let's make these toasts something personal to the couple. Or if you're toasting to something else, to a rarefied occasion, make it personal. Make sure that it really is something for the occasion or the people you are toasting. Salancha.
Thank you, Beth. So there are many opportunities for toasting, one of which is at a celebration. I sometimes make them up on the spot, but find that that does not go well. Have you, engine number 9 going down the Chicago line, if he fell track, who's getting my money back? Gerald. Pre-planning a toast and practicing a toast or going freestyle. What is your preferred method and how has it gone? Gerald Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster / Table Topics Master. It is a rarefied occasion that I do give a toast. I think about it sometimes, and there always seems to be somebody that does it first. Maybe it's that quick pause and just look around the room and say, who's going to do this? Who isn't? However, I prefer to plan it out myself because I do need practice at doing toast. So thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, for this theme and this rarefied opportunity. I remember in past events we had, such as our gathering at the bar, the Irish funeral, where Kate gave some really good toasts. And I thought, wow, I would like to be able to do that. And I still have not practiced. I don't have one in my back pocket. It's what I need. Some people can do it spontaneously, but I feel like it would not come out well for me. I know Harry Carlson, when he came to one of our meetings, he said he had some toasts that were in his back pocket that he used all the time. And when he gave those toasts, I actually tried to write them down, but sadly, I wasn't fast enough with the pen and only got part of them. So he had some good ones as well. So I need to write them and practice them so I can pull them off at any given occasion when it occurs. Because I don't do as well spontaneously. That's why I'm glad I had the opportunity today, Mr. Table Topic / Toastmaster, to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Another time that a toast is given is at a meal. And my favorite, as we have already heard, has to do with filling the tummy. So going with that theme, toasting and an overall feast, if you will, or thoughts of feasting will be: my mother and your mother were hanging up close. My mother punched your mother right in the nose. What color was the blood? Red. R-E-D is red, and you are not. Oh, it can't be Beth again. So, Mike Florio, did you raise your hand? Or was that
Yeah,
just...
sure.
Okay.
So I get these rarefied moments when I can give a toast, because in business, I have people that I sometimes get a chance to entertain. And some of them are from other countries, Canada, China, Vietnam, whatever. And sometimes there's a little misunderstanding of the toast. And I was put on the spot once at a meal to give the toast. And much like Mark, I wanted to keep it simple. So I said, Mike, everyone, welcome, salute. I said salute. Well, I said salute in front of a friend of mine, William Wu. And William misunderstood. He didn't understand salute. He said that in Chinese, salute sounded like kill the donkey. I go, what? What does it sound like? He said, kill the donkey. So we had been drinking quite a bit, and a lot of wine and a lot of salutes. And it turned out that every time we met after that we didn't say salute. We said, kill the donkey. And that was our toast. And that was my most memorable and favorite toast ever, Madam Toastmaster.
Mr. Toastmaster. Hey, thank you. With that, I'm going to call on a timers report. How did our three contestants do with time?
All three have qualified. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Beth at 1:50, Gerald at 1:39, Mike Florio at 1:35. Thank you, Mr. Zoom Master, for pinning the timer.
I didn't even notice that. You're correct. Thank you. That is some skill. Hopefully, if you can send out the voting button, that'll even impress me. Like, we're good. We've got all the skills we need for the meeting.
Still,
I think-
still need a word master report though.
Yes, you do. So the word master report, that is Gerald. Gerald, did you and the other contestants use the word of the day?
Yes, I'm happy to say all our contestants used the word of the day. Beth, myself, and Mike Florio. Good job, table topics participants. I'll report on everyone else later in the meeting.
I can't edit the poll, unfortunately. I can only launch it and stop it, so vote accordingly based on their order. Beth, Gerald, or Mike.
There you go.
Okay. It is rarefied to have a group, a small group like AM Lockport, who is willing to get up so early in the morning and gather to enjoy each other's friendship, company, hear stories, and work on our ability to publicly speak. Those people, some people have come and some people have gone. To those who were here that we remember, I'd like to offer a toast to absent friends. Before we get to speaker one, I'm going to talk about the history of toasting. The history of toasting goes back to the Greeks, where they would ritualistically raise an offering of blood or wine to their deities. And then it began to be amongst themselves where they would have some as well. They would even leave drinks with the dead. The Romans, of course, took this and said, hey, you know what? Let's do it also, but let's toast to each other. Since we're Romans, we're awesome. And let's toast to each other's health so that we live long and are strong. So their most common toast was to your health, and is still a popular toast today. Well, where'd the name toast come from? Well, one of the things about old water back in the day, it could kill you. So the safest drinks were those that were either boiled or fermented. Boiled like coffee or tea, or fermented like beer or wine. So one of the problems with fermenting is it becomes bitter. So adding a piece of toast, which is already seasoned or slightly flavored, would reduce the bitterness from the fermentation process and improve the quality of the drink. Well, it also goes to the old saying, waste not, want not. What do you do with bread that you left on the shelf too long? Well, not very enjoyable to eat, so you could dunk it in your coffee. That's a common thing where we dunk things in our coffee. Still goes back to the bread got dry on the shelf. So waste not, want not. They use stale bread in the wine to absorb some of the bitterness and to also not waste the bread. The Roman Empire actually passed a law that it was required to toast to the emperor's health at every meal. So 3 times a day, every citizen would toast to his health. And if you believe in the power of prayer, that's one reason why those guys were probably pretty dang healthy. I already talked about that. I'll save those for the interludes between speeches. So we will move on to speaker number 1, evaluator. I'm going to give the evaluators an opportunity to introduce. If you pitch it back to me, I will take that as a indication to introduce them. Otherwise, the evaluators will introduce the speakers today. Our first evaluator is Tracy Farrell. and she will be evaluating Dave Jones. Over to you, evaluator one. Tracy.
Salute, Mr. Toastmaster. Today, we're going to hear from David Jones. He's going to be speaking to us from the Visionary Communication Manual, Level 2. The purpose of this project is to really learn and explore the different communication styles that are available to him and learn which one is really most appropriate to him. He's speaking for 5 to 7 minutes. The title of his speech is My Various Communication Forms. David Jones, take it on.
Evidently, my older daughter Tanya was chewing gum in school and got caught by the teacher. And she went to a small private Christian school in Miami, Florida. And this is back in the 1990s, before we had emails, phones, or texts. What the teacher would do would be put a note in the child's backpack and send it home, or you'd hope that the child would come home and tell you what happened at school. Well, this particular day, Tanya came home and asked me for 50 cents. And I said, what do you need 50 cents for? And she said, well, the teacher caught me chewing gum and she fines us 50 cents. Evidently, the teacher would have different fines for different infractions, and chewing gum was 50 cents. To me, this was a clear RDA, a rarefied discipline action. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, good morning. This became my first form of communication style. I got to write a letter to the teacher with my concerns. I wanted to know, did that 50 cents go into her pocket? Did she donate it to the church? Did she donate it to the school? I was concerned where this money was going. Long story short, I didn't pay the 50 cents and the teacher no longer charged students fines. And this is my first communication styles. I wrote a lot of letters to the school. In fact, I later found out years later that the teachers and the administrators dreaded getting a letter from Mr. Jones. But Tanya was a good student. She was an honor roll student. She played sports. She's very well behaved, never got in trouble. And when they messed with her, I would let them know. Now, my two daughters are 10 years apart. So 10 years later, my younger daughter, Nicole, goes to the same school. Now we have internet, we have email. And whenever there was an infraction, we would get an email and we'd know what she did before she even got home from school. Now, when I would get these emails, I'd read them. And unfortunately, I'd have to say, yes, that sounds about right. For those of you with multiple kids, you know you got the first child who is an honor roll student, and then you have the second child who is the opposite of that. And it was kind of the school's karma. I'd have to put my head down when I went there because of Nicole. I couldn't write intimidating letters anymore. But during this period of time, we lived in a big homeowners association in Miami. We had 12 or 1,300 homes. And if you figure that many homes probably had 3,000 plus residents. Well, I was on the board of directors. In fact, I was on every single board, every single committee, because out of 3,000 plus people, there was only like 10 of us who actually did anything in the association. And then we had 3,000 people complain about what those 10 people did. Fortunately, one of the committees I was on was the newsletter committee. And it was back when we would print it out monthly, put it in a plastic bag and deliver it door to door. And that became my second form of communication style. And that was writing in the newsletter. And I would write nice things. I would write informative things, but I'd also point out infractions. We were a very strict homeowners association. You couldn't have your boat in your driveway, a commercial vehicle, monster truck. You had to paint your house a certain color. You had to mow your lawn. You had to make it look nice. Inevitably, there were people who did not do that. And I might mention them in the newsletter, not by name, but just by action. And on a few occasions, homeowners would come in and threaten to sue me for slander. I'd say, well, I didn't mention your name. What do you mean? And he'd say, well, you said this person did this, this, and this, and I do those things. And I'd say, oh, so you're the one. They would incriminate themselves. But But I really enjoyed writing the newsletter, not only to express my dissatisfaction, but also to inform the community. And then I found Toastmasters. And Toastmasters gave me a voice that I never had because I was always a non-confrontational person. This had to do with my upbringing and the way my parents raised me. That's a whole nother speech. But finding my voice allowed me to speak directly to people, to talk about issues or concerns and get an immediate response. Whenever we send an email or a text or a letter, we kind of send it out there and we just wait to see what the response is. When we're talking face to face, we get an immediate response. We see facial expressions, we hear the tones, and we know which way to take our speech or our conversation with that individual. And this is a true form of communication. What we do here at Toastmasters is speaking to one another, talking face to face, giving ideas and resolving issues. And since I've been with Toastmaster, I have more confidence and I'm able to confront people, but not in a negative way, mostly in a positive way, where I can actually just come up and talk to somebody, which is something I would never do in the past. And my 3 communication styles went from sending out letters, a little bit impactful letters, to emails or the newsletter where they're a little sarcastic, and finally communication style, which I hope is acceptable to most. Today, my challenge to you all is not now, but later today, to pick up your phone and call somebody. It'll freak them out because we're all used to texting. I don't know if you remember the old days when there was a phone on the wall, it would ring, we'd all run, pick it up, and whoever got it first would get to talk. And if somebody else picked up another line, it's like, it's for me. We don't do that anymore. So today, try to call somebody and just say hello, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That does ring so true. One thing that does not ring true is a myth that I found when researching toasts. There was a thought that when 2 glasses were brought up and brought together, that the exchange of liquid would stop someone from poisoning you. And that basically, there's no historical record of that ever being a thing. That's probably something that was either written or made in Hollywood and became a myth. There's no written history of that actually being used where I guess you could exchange glasses, but I don't think there's ever an idea of toasting where you climbed glasses together to exchange liquid make sure that no one's poisoning you. So that is something I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of. I lost my place. Okay, so our second speaker today is Mike Licata, and he will be evaluated by Marty Johnson. Marty Johnson, if you would, please introduce the speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, good morning. This morning, Mike Licata is speaking. The project is Know Your Sense of Humor. The time is 5 to 7 minutes, and Mike's purpose this morning is to add humor to a speech through anecdotes and stories. The title of Mike's speech is Friends Figuring Things Out. I present to you Mike Licata. Take it away, Mike.
Thank you, Marty. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. When I was preparing for this speech, it was pretty simple what I was going to talk about this morning, and it basically became what makes me laugh. And I really think that people in uncomfortable situations or people making mistakes is always entertaining. Now, I've also always found that being me, when I'm in uncomfortable situations, it's always even more funny because it usually leads to me making mistakes and entertaining everybody. And I don't mind being the butt of jokes or people being laughed at, because that's basically how I spent most of my youth and all throughout high school and college as well. Now, my friends that I've been friends with for more than a decade slowly figured out how to mess with me. And the biggest thing that people figured out is I don't like heights, which and on every couple of occasions has really, really entertained my friends. And one was not so recent is when we went to friends and I did a baseball trip. We went to wonderful San Francisco and we went to AT&T ballpark, which is this gorgeous, gorgeous ballpark. But this is also when the Giants were really good, so tickets weren't super cheap. And my friend ended up buying tickets in the top tier. Now, if anybody knows anything about San Francisco, it's the fact that it's always cool, but it's also always windy. Now, that means is that the entertainment value of watching me try to get to seats means I clutch every rail. I make sure that I may watch every step that I take because, man, it is not a fun experience for me to be up at the top tier of a baseball stadium. Just simply getting my seats is entertaining, that my friend Chris found out. So he was vastly amused at watching me just crawl to my seats, and it took a lot longer than it should have. So he found out that night that I don't do heights really well and that we weren't moving when the game started. That was it. So basically, for 9 innings, I sat there for the entire game, didn't really do much, had a very, very, very uncomfortable, sweaty experience. And it became one of those things that he figured out. So he just would have a smirk on his face the entire game. Now, more recently, I found that my friend that works for the Bills and the Sabres said, "Do you want to go to any game this year?" And I asked, "Sure, can we get tickets to the Ryan Miller jersey retirement night this past Sabre season?" He works on it, sure. He kind of procrastinated, so he had to get two separate seats at different parts of the arena. Now, I like to think I'm the more gracious person, because as the day got closer, he said, "Well, what seat do you want?" He said, "I got one ticket in the 300 level, one ticket that's a lot more in the 100 level." I said, "Well, figure out what you want to take, because I'll take whichever one you don't want," thinking, okay, it can't be that hard. I've sat in the 300 level at HSBC Arena before, or KeyBank Center, whatever it is now. It's not that bad. I have another friend that has season tickets. As long as people are in front of me, the fear of heights won't kick in, and it shouldn't be that bad. Well, I get downtown. He sends me the ticket. The problem is that the ticket he bought for the 300 level happened to be in the first row of the 300 level. So there's nothing but a small piece of plexiglass in front of me. And that was entertaining, because I was by myself. It wasn't like we had to get there like an hour early, because the ceremony itself started at 6. So, but the place was packed as a testament to this great Sabres player. But the funny thing is that when nobody was sitting around me, I basically gripped the seats next to me and just kind of like tried to make myself as small as possible, because it was such an uncomfortable experience. And it was one of those times that was not fun. I tried to do as much as participate as much as I could with the standing ovations for Miller. And then during the game, it was vastly entertaining. But after the anthems, I only really kind of stood up for the Sabres goals. and it wasn't a fun experience. And I also feel bad because I wasn't sitting with my friends, so they couldn't experience the pure joy of watching me act like kind of a timid person. But they had fun. We had fun. The Sabres won that game. It was a good time. It's just being put in those uncomfortable situations really, really entertains my friends. And I've also found that them figuring out that I don't do heights really well is something it's something I take pride in. The fact that I still am trying to get better at it, but I'm never gonna feel comfortable in those situations, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. So to finish up, Mr. Toastmaster, I want to give a toast this morning to friends that can find humor in everyday experiences and friends that can find humor in uncomfortable situations. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mike. Friends. Friends are a way that we do interact and do also toast with, whether it's weddings, at New Year's, at a party, at a funeral, or any celebration. The toast is a big part of that. So one of the things that I remember most was the love of family when toasts are given. That person that you never thought was that emotional or that thoughtful gives a wonderfully warm toast that makes you just feel all warm inside and happy. Or maybe it was the alcohol from all the toasts before, but toast can be a big part of every day. And my challenge to you today is go out and do a toast at some point with friends or family today, tomorrow. But before we meet again. So with that, I need to remember to move things to under Mike's camera. I realized I was watching the speakers over here when the screen was over here, which probably did not look good here. So I've moved the window. So now I'm able to see the speaker underneath the camera. So we will be moving on to our last speaker for today, who will be evaluated by Phil Russell. Phil Russell will be evaluating Mike Florio. Phil, do you have his speech details? And able to
Mr.
introduce?
Toastmaster,
Thank
I
you.
hope you can hear me.
Yes.
My toast for today, to start off with, rub-a-dub-dub. God bless this grub, for those that have not eaten. There we go. Yes, I called Mike Florio. I'm in the car. I'm going to be moving around here because I am having adventures with Dave Licata this morning. We'll see how that goes. But Mike Florio is doing understanding your leadership style. And his speech title, I'll give you that in a minute, but the purpose of it is the purpose of this project is for the member to identify their primary leadership style or styles. The purpose of the speech is for the member to share some aspect of their primary leadership style or discuss leadership styles in general. I did have a good conversation with Michael before because he didn't even realize he was a speaker, and he came up with, in our conversation, approximately 5, 6, or 7 ideas from one idea. And I said, yeah. And usually what you could do is get that speech going and fit it into the speech that you are doing from Pathways. So I went in, got the form, as you can see, it's on my clipboard. It's a little bit difficult, but we'll survive. And we're just sort of working in rarefied territory here because I'm on the move
and will be on the move, but I will be evaluating Michael Florio. And his speech title, which is 5 to 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, Mr. Timer, Madam Timer, whoever it is. Serendipity number 5. Mike Florio.
Thank you, Phil, Mr. Toastmaster, and fellow Toastmasters, good morning. Phil's right. I was kind of taken a little bit aback about that I had a speech, but no problem. I'm a Toastmaster. And I started thinking about what it takes to be a good leader. And as I read about the path, it talked about taking action, being open-minded, and being optimistic. Those were 3 of the things that stood out to me, right, about being a good leader. And I feel like I have some of those characteristics. And the first thing that came to mind to me about those 3 characteristics was number 5. And I know serendipity number 5, everybody's wondering, what does that mean? Well, number 5 is a house that I purchased. It was my 5th house that I purchased, and that was back in 2013. Now, this was the first and only house that I purchased through auction. And a lot of things came about through that. A friend of mine who recently passed away, Lou Wright, he was the one who said, hey, Mike, you've got to come to this auction and you can pick up some houses. I go, okay, Lou, I'll come with you. So before you go to this auction, you've got to do your research. That's where the work is. That's where you have to take action. And I would go through the list of the houses, and back then there wasn't Zillow. That was 10 years ago. So, but there was Google Maps. And so what I would do is I'd go through and I would find the house. If they didn't have a photo or a description, I'd get in the car and I'd go check it out. Well, there was one in Newfane that I liked, and I Google mapped it, and I went out, and it was a little white bungalow. And I walked around the house and I peeked in the window, because you're not allowed to go into these homes before you bid on them. It's pretty much a blind bid. Well, I walked around the wrong house for about 15 minutes, and luckily I didn't get arrested. Okay. But then I finally realized it was that white bungalow next door to the other white bungalow. So the house looked pretty good from the outside. And when it came time to go to the auction, I sat there, and at that time, there weren't all these remodeling shows, right? There was, 30 or 40 people showed up at the auction. Now, 400 to 500 people show up at auctions. So I sat there and I very timidly raised my hand to bid on this house, $25,000. And all of a sudden the guy goes, going once, going twice, going 3 times, sold. I go, oh my God. The guy next to me said, congratulations, you just bought a house. I go, oh my gosh. And I'll never forget going home to my wife and saying, Dee, you can't imagine what I just did. I bought a house. He goes, what? I go, yeah, I bought a house. So I was so excited that I went down to the house just recently purchased, and I started walking around at the right house this time, right? And the neighbor, she came out, a young woman, and she goes, hi, how are you doing? Can I help you? I go, well, I just bought this house. I'm technically going to be your neighbor. Well, or I'll probably rent it to someone, but I'll be your neighbor. And I go, geez, I'd sure like to go in and take a look at it. And she goes, well, wait a minute, let me go get my son. I go, what? Yeah, I'll go get my son. And a 9-year-old kid comes out and he goes, yeah, I can get you in there. I go in there and I play all the time. I just have to get up through the window if you can give me a boost. So I give the kid a boost up into the window. He goes and runs through the house and unlocks the front door. And all of a sudden I'm in the house. Now this is all transpiring in the same day that I bought it. And so I go through and I look and much to my surprise, it wasn't in really bad shape. There was a vanity missing. It needed a floor. Really not that much had to be done to it. So I go, wow, this is good. And then it got a little stranger. All right. I walked out after looking through, and all of a sudden I'm standing in front of the house, and another person walks down the street walking his dog, and I notice him from the Y. Right. I go, hey, Bob, how you doing? He goes, hey, what's going on? I said, well, I just bought this house. He goes, really? I know somebody who's interested in moving back to this area, and maybe you might be interested in renting or selling it to him. I said, well, yeah, sure. Give me the name. So I'm talking to him for 5 minutes, right? And I'm certain that I know him. Well, I see Bob, I think, the next day, and it's actually Tom, his twin brother. He goes, no, that wasn't me. That was my twin brother. So I'm having a conversation with this guy thinking I know him. And I had no idea. He didn't know me either. So all of a sudden, here I am. All this happened in one day, that I bought the house, looked through the house, and found basically the person that I would sell the house to through this Tom, all in one day. So in my mind, I didn't know what I was going to do with that house when I first walked through it. It's really taking action, right? Leading through it, being open-minded and being optimistic. It all kind of fell into place. It was definitely serendipity. It was being in the right place at the right time, and it all worked out for the best. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very, very much. So with that, I go to Katie for a timers report. Did all of our speakers make the 4.5 to 7.5 minute windows?
They sure did. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. David Jones at 6:10, Mike Licata at 6:33, Mike Florio with a little bit of the buffer at 7, just over 7. So 7:07. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Great job, speakers.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So our 3 speakers today, that since the names won't be there, were Dave Jones with My Various Communication Styles, Mike Licata with Friends Figuring Things Out, and Mike Florio with his leadership style, right? Yeah. So Dave, Mike Licata, or Mike Florio. Vote. Did that? Nope, it's off the screen. There we go. Oh, we got the names in there? Oh my gosh. Good deal.
Yeah, Len pre-populated those.
Excellent.
So as long as nothing changes, we're good.
Okay. That sounds excellent. We are only 2 minutes behind the schedule. So we're rolling right into evaluators. So our first evaluator, I'd like to introduce, who is given, okay, start over. Our first evaluator will be evaluating our first speaker, and I hand it over to Tracy Farrell.
Thank you, Thomas. So today, Dave gave us a fantastic speech. He's one of our rarefied Toastmasters in the club. And during his speech, he checked every one of those boxes. He gave us a clear speech. use vocal variety, fantastic eye contact, gestures, always comfortable when he gives a speech. It was an interesting speech, have to agree with that. And it's a topic that we all were interested in. Also, he used stories for audience awareness, and he walked us through each type of communication style that he used. He started off with his beginning level communication styles when he was writing letters to his child's school, and then the maturity level of how that moved on. Then he moved on to his second level of the homeowners association and how he's writing newsletters. And he kind of learned how to communicate with those confrontational homeowners. Not an easy thing to do, but he learned how to do that. So during this speech and reflecting on it, he did achieve his purpose. He was able to identify his communication style and learn from it. One of the things, very small suggestion, Dave, don't take anything seriously, but I would have started off the speech a little bit slower. You jumped right into it and your picture flashed up and you said, evidently my communication smile. I had to stop and say, what's he talking about? What? So I would have introduced your speech a little bit slower, kind of tell us what you're going to talk about and lead us into your speech, and then maybe end the speech with a bigger pop. But you didn't disappoint us, because then you ended the speech with a challenge for us. Instead of me giving a challenge or giving a challenge to you, you turned it and gave a challenge to us. You said, I want you to look at your communication styles, pick up the phone, talk to your friends, to talk directly to everybody you come in contact with. And that was your level 3 communication style. And it's something that we all really need to do. We have to get away from texting and emailing and all this. Talk directly to all of the people around us. It builds better friendships. It helps us in our career and in the community. Dave, you achieved it. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Nancy. Sometimes the hardest spot in giving speeches is being evaluator 3, because evaluator 1 gets all of speaker 2 and speaker 3's time. Evaluator 2 gets at least speaker 3 time, but speaker 3 only gets the 2 brief evaluator spots to write his evaluation. So buying time for Phil, if he's frantically trying to add a few extra notes, I would like to just do really quickly 2 unusual things I came across toasting that I wasn't able to investigate further. Was the act of adding blood or toasting with blood. I saw something in there about doing this for women. And then drinking from a woman's shoe to show your affection toward her. Both of these were a little bit off the rails, and I didn't investigate them further, but I may in the future. But I don't think we do that anymore. And someone who's not off the rails and able to give a good evaluation is our good friend Phil. Phil will be evaluating.
Marty is second, actually. Timer
Mar-
is interjecting. We have Tracy first, and next is Marty, and then
Oh,
Phil.
oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm lost. Thank you so much for interjecting. We're going next to evaluator 2 for Marty. And Marty, it will be evaluating Mike Licata. Sorry about that, Marty. Over to Marty.
Thank you, Tom. You were once lost, now you're found. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and especially Mike, for adding some humor to our meeting this morning. And that was the whole purpose of your speech. You got to the point right away and you told us what makes you laugh, and that's your fear of heights. You added humor throughout the speech by using anecdotes and stories. You were aware of us, your audience, throughout the speech. and you explained and you painted mental pictures so we could see where you were going in the ball games, in the top tier of the stadium in San Francisco, the 300 level first row seat right in front of the plexiglass at the Sabres game. You were fairly consistent with your gestures. However, to work on the speech and to make it even better, Mike, I would work on more consistent gestures. Perhaps when you were talking about clutching the seat, you could actually show us how you're clutching that seat. You did use the hands when you were clutching that. What I was going to suggest is when you're climbing up to the ballpark, you said up to the top tier. That's the point I wanted to make. Actually show us that motion like you're clutching that and like you're climbing up. Show us so we can visualize that and add it to the humor and the drama of the story. And exaggerate your facial expressions, I have written here, even more when you tell us where your seats were located. You know, that'll even add to the humor. Oh, we're way up at the top and I was climbing, oh my gosh, all the way up the top. These guys crazy. To challenge yourself, I would suggest preparing in advance for your next speech to
Hold on, Marty, you're muted again. Hang on 1 second. It just switched over about 5 seconds ago. Hope you can't hear me.
you have
Marty?
a perfect
There you go.
opportunity to use the word of the day at the end of your speech. You could have said that your fear of heights was rarefied by your friends. Mike, as always, I appreciate your speeches and your humor, and I know right where you get it from. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Marty. I think you realized you were having some issues and you turned off the video and that does save on the streaming and will bring your audio back online. And that was a good semi-recovery. It sounded like you came back in where you left off. So good recovery. In researching the original speech memorable toasts, I couldn't find any. I wish I could, but there weren't any famous toasts that I was able to find. So we're going to move on, this time correctly, to Phil evaluating Mike. Over to you, Phil.
Mr. President, Mike, you're so, I liked it. I liked that speech. You are a natural conversationalist. You were very good facial expressions, good gestures. Everything was natural. I like the visual that you have set up for your office, wherever you are. It's great. I'm not going to give you a whitewash but it was a very good, well-spoken speech. There's room for improvement always in something, but let's talk about something else first. How you presented it and the story, it was fun. Now, a couple of things. The open and the close. And put a little bit more pizzazz in it if you can, if you think so. Your open was smooth. And it was easy going. It was good. But do you think you could spice it up a little bit? Put something else in there to catch people's attention a little better. That was my main point. I have one more that I want to mention that might help in the future. And especially on these, we all have to work on this with pathways. is that we need to make these speeches into what they want. And I would say what you need to do is just tie in the leadership aspect with the story. How was this good leadership? It was good for you for personal experience. I could see how it could be tied into leadership style by speaking with the people, and it fits, but you need to express that better. And that's what I think Toastmasters International is trying to do. I don't know if they've accomplished all of it yet, but they're working on it through this pathways. And we're working on it. These are all new experiences for us. It's rarefied air that we're breathing with this pathways thing, if you've been in it for any length of time. And I think it'll be a little bit more difficult for our newer members. However, it's not really that difficult if in fact all you do is just give the guidance, the leadership that the people need to do it. So good speech. I liked it. I love those stories. Great storyteller. Mr. Toastmaster. And I am out.
Sorry. I'm back. Okay, so timers report for our evaluators.
All three evaluators qualified. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Tracy at 2:47. Marty and Phil, I was having some technical difficulties, but you did great because you are seasoned DTMs. Marty at 2:55, Phil at 2:50. Thank you, everybody. Great job.
Okay, our poll will be coming up, and we are going to jump immediately after the, well, we will do the poll when you want it. There it is. All right. So we're running 8 minutes remaining, so we got to go a little bit faster. I'm a little slow. So word master and grammarian master today is Gerald Stevens. Gerald Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'll start off with the word report. Other than table topics, I felt it did pretty well. Thomas used it 2 times that I heard. Marty used it once. Phil used it twice. Tracy and David Jones also used the word. Rarefied. Good job. In regards to Oz, I was pretty good at catching those. I did want to comment that Carol didn't have any. Good job, Carol. I know you've been working on that. Job well done. However, Thomas had more than 5. Mike Florio also had more than 5. Ian Zanaus and Beth had 3 Oz. Mike Licata had now and an and a but. So he had 3 different things. Marty had a couple double clutches. He double clutched the word clutch. So I thought that was interesting. And also he double clutched and. Or add, sorry, not in. In regards to grammar, I'm not the best grammarian, but I did catch one thing from Mike Licata. He said, one every couple of occasions. On multiple occasions would have been better. That's my report, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Gerald. Former president. The 2 roles remaining are Quizmaster and General Evaluator. I'm going to hand it over to the General Evaluator. I have to step away. So if you could, hand it back to the president or the Quizmaster for today, which was Mark. I hand it over to you, Nancy.
Okie dokie. We do our quiz after evaluation. I'll try to keep it really, really short and sweet with the what happened to my, am I unmuted? Yes, I am. I'm sorry. I will try to keep it short and sweet here and keep us on time. Kate, you opened up with checking in with the Toastmaster. That really makes things go smoothly during the meeting. We started on time. Thomas, fun, brilliant unique topic. Just remember Tracy and Nancy are not the same person. I think it's because of our last names or something. I'm not sure. Every one of our evaluators gave a toast. They all used the sandwich approach. And I noticed that all three of them focused more on the presentation of the speech masterfully, and not the content as it should be. Let me see. Everyone offered good suggestions, and I heard a lot of wisdom and experience from our evaluators. With that, I will ask for we don't have any other reports, just the quiz?
Correct.
Will you share your questions for us, Quizmaster?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters. What is the most popular toast?
To your health.
Cheers.
Cheers, correct. What was the initial job of a Toastmaster before Toastmasters International?
Keep everybody sober.
Control the toasts. Okay, this points to my get off my lawn moment this morning. In AM Lockport, what is the time for table topics?
1.5 to 2 minutes.
There you go. What former member of AM Lockport always had toasts in his back pocket?
Harry Carlson.
Carlson.
Correct. This is the most important fact we learned today. If there's one thing that we take away from this meeting, what does salute sound like in Chinese?
Kill the donkey.
Kill the donkey. Let's file
Kill
that
the
away for
donkey.
future reference. Greeks toasted with blood or?
Wine.
What was the fine for chewing gum?
50 cents.
50
You're muted, Mark.
50 cents before his strongly worded letter. What does Mike Licata not like?
Heights.
Heights.
Mike, very briefly, my mother-in-law, I had her in the 300 level of HSBC. You would have thought she was on a tightrope or on the ledge of a 100-story skyscraper. But Mike, I have an offer for you. In the renovated Madison Square Garden, they constructed 2 bridges near the roof. They are suspended over the lower bowl. Mike, I'll buy your plane ticket. I'll buy your tickets. I'll buy your beer. We're going, my man. And last but not least, how much did Mike Licata buy Serendipity number 5 for?
25 grand.
Florio.
Mike Florio, correct.
25
Yeah,
grand.
him too, $25,000. And since I'm last and it's 8:28, I will turn it over to Kate to close the meeting. Kate.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Great meeting. And since I'm the timer and the president, I have to close it down within 2 minutes. So let's get this going. Our best table topics today. You know what I'm going to do? I go to our best evaluator. She has left the building. Tracy was our best evaluator today. Bravo, Tracy. Our club is a large club, so we typically are different than the small clubs that have table topics and speakers often being the same person. We have, in my memory, never had the same person win table topics and speaking, and we did today, maybe a first time ever. Mike Florio won table topics and best speaker, so bravo to that. I think it might be a first time ever since we usually split those up, but I'm glad you volunteered. Great job, everybody. I will share your kill the donkey story. Made me remember that in China and Japan, parts of Asia, they say kanpai. Kanpai means finish it. When as a wine trail director, we were trying to export wine, that's a whole different tasting experience when you say finish it and you have a glass of wine and they would knock it back fully. Savoring and enjoying the wine was a whole educational
Those
experience.
Chinese can drink, okay?
Well, if your thing is that finish it, then finish it.
Wow.
Donkey, whatever. So if you didn't know that, now you know that. Okay, it is 8:30 and our theme next week is airports, led by David Jones. So get ready for airports. Our speakers are Jackie, Carol Ann, and Marty. Please respond on the schedule. The agenda is fully set up for the quarter. Thank you, Nancy and Len, for doing that. Without further ado, I will close us out. May your day be touched with a bit of luck, brightened by a song in your heart, and warmed with smiles by the people that you love. A Celtic blessing. Cheers, everybody. Memorable toasts, and see you next week.